Okay, so branding is very simple. It's obviously what people think about when they think of your name or your company name or your brand. The issue that people have is that they think that branding is the logo that you use and the colors that you put in that logo, when branding is really like, the majority of you are personal brands and are faces of the brand. So it's everything that has to do with you, okay? So why is that important? Let me give you some examples. So one of the, I'm gonna give you guys something we call the brand guidelines. I'm gonna just talk about what's on that in a second. But one of the things that we want to, in our brand is elevated. So that's like one of the keywords that we use for our brand. I like elevated stuff, and that's why I have it part of my brand. So just as a quick example, I know this is dumb, but I'm gonna drive some of this home. The reason why I'm not staying at a Holiday Inn here, even though it would be cheaper and it has the same bed, is because if I put a story and it was me checking into the Holiday Inn, that wouldn't be on brand with what I do and what I sell. And so the background of your content, so there's something called the association bias. And it's when somebody sees you, like, so for example, let's say somebody sees, you guys have all trusted Will for a long time. That's why you're here, and you guys paid the money to be here. Will has put me on stage now. Okay, so now there's an association bias that if you trust Will, now you trust me. Okay, and so the stuff that you surround yourself with in your contents, and the things that you use and the words that you use, those have meanings for other people that you might not even be aware of. And so then when those two things are put together, you absorb that meaning. And that's okay and fine because Will has done a great job building his brand, so I'm okay being associated with it. But a great example is some of the mistakes I've seen some people do. I'm not gonna knock these guys completely, but like I know people in my industry that have gone on the Fresh and Fit podcast, if you guys ever heard of it. And that's like an incredibly controversial podcast, and you know, they're misogynistic, and I'm not gonna get into all the problems with it. I'm not saying it's wrong, I don't care, it's whatever they wanna do. But then if I were to get on that, now everybody who hated Fresh and Fit and either didn't know who I was or maybe barely knew who I was would think that I am now a misogynist, et cetera, because of the brand association and pairing between those two things together. But it's not just people. It's the clothes you wear, the places you stay, the thing that's in your content, all of that stuff is essentially branding. And so when you do that, you start to be really conscious of literally everything that you do in your life, because you are the personal brand. You're your business. So anything that you do will reflect on your business, which will essentially reflect on your bottom line. So that's why what we did. So another really great example, a really high leveraged form of content creation is like those tweet style posts or those Canva posts, if you guys have ever seen those before on Instagram. Because for example, my copywriter makes those for me. I don't make those. Okay, so I don't have to make that piece of content. We put out typically one a day. The issue with that is before I had a branding guideline, he had created a post where he was essentially saying, I think it was like, Gary Vee said this, and this is why he was wrong, or this is why he's an idiot. As far as hooks are concerned, that's amazing. That's a great hook, and I'm throwing rocks to somebody else. But my brand, I don't ever want to be associated with me trying to tear somebody else down. That's not who I am as a person. And so I had to then go have a conversation with them and say, this is what's wrong about this, because now people are going to see me as somebody who brings somebody else down, even just from one piece of content. Am I making sense in all this so far? So when it comes to branding, the biggest mistake I see people make is they're just not conscious about it, okay? And so they just let anything stick. This is my brand guidelines, it's a Google document. Every single time we create any piece of content, there's one stage before it gets published. So there's a ready to be published stage in our media pipeline, and the stage before that is quality control. And the first thing in quality control is, does this piece of content match our brand guidelines? And all content goes through here. Ads, podcast requests, podcasts that I've done, Instagram Reels, everything goes through. So the final stop before anything is allowed to go published live is, does it match our brand guidelines? And this is how you're able to have YouTube videos when someone's on Instagram and they watch Reels of you. Even if you don't CTA your YouTube, next time they're on YouTube and they see a specific thumbnail, they're going to click, more likely to click on it because it has your branding around it. It has your association essentially around it. So I'm going to give you a few things here. So for me, I have my target audience, which is coaches, consultant agencies, course creators, online service providers. Secondary audience, entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs. Then I have my brand values, which is the values of my company. Brand personality, intelligent, high quality work, luxury. Visual identity. We must use cohesive and consistent brand identity across every platform and channel. We want a look of luxurious effortlessness. Never use shots of Ravi looking at the camera. It should all be candid. Ravi should be doing things, not staged. So I don't like to post photos where I'm like this. I'd rather have a photo of someone take a photo of me talking to somebody else, and that's the one that's on there. Because if you have like this, you're like everybody else. If you have someone taking a photo of you, all of a sudden in somebody else's mind, you must be important enough to have somebody take a photo of you. These are all the subconscious 0.1 second things that people associate with you as soon as they see a photo. Does that make sense? Advanced stuff, I know, but hopefully it's helpful. Always do in-person videos instead of virtual for our B-roll. So then I have literal examples. So one issue that my editing team was doing is when they were putting B-rolls in, they were putting B-rolls of me on Zoom calls, but then I'm just like everybody else. Anybody can get on a Zoom call. What people can't do, which Will and I were talking and Charlie and I were talking yesterday, is like host a lot of masterminds or events. That's harder to do. There's a smaller percentage. And so for me to be unique, I need to show things that I'm doing that other people aren't doing, but I'm not going to be jumping out of planes and doing crazy shit. So it's subtle stuff like this. So me talking in front of an audience versus me on a Zoom call. Always do a B-roll with more people in a packed room than less. So once again, they did a thing of like the highest level mastermind I have. I told you guys 100K a year. And so there was like 3 people in this video B-roll versus this one over here where this is my larger mastermind and there was like 60 people in this one here. So I wanted me to be associated with, I only speak to packed rooms. I don't speak in an empty room, right? Let's see, always show a variety of B-roll, always use plain backgrounds, use photos or videos of B-roll of Lauren if possible. I know another thing that people are attracted to with me is my relationship with now my fiance and like living more of the quote unquote dream life than like maybe the person that's like grind, right? Don't have background text. I have the specific font styles that we're supposed to use for stories because I don't post all of my stories. Make sure the captions or words are never overlaid by text. Keep captions as small as possible. Don't use emojis. Like, so this is example, my social media manager said, watch my latest new video now with a rocket emoji. To me, that looks childish. So I asked him to remove that. Clear 4K shots, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I also have the fonts that we use, the colors that we should use in the fonts, our website fonts. So all of this, any signature should use this specific signature. So this took me probably a day to make, but now I'm essentially portrayed out to the world the way that I want to be. And a lot of you don't realize that whether you create this brand guideline or not, the world considers your personal brand a certain way. And so you need to narrate this. The people that I know that have the best personal brands and the people that I've studied, they have a legitimate storytelling team that creates a story around what this person is. Actually, you see some of these people like kind of calling them out. The reason why the rags to riches, great example, Donald Trump, Luke Belmar, Iman Gadzhi, these are all people that legitimately have storytellers on their team. The reason why Donald Trump wears, if you look, he wears suits that are too big for him. They aren't tailored. He's incredibly wealthy. Why would he do that? Because that makes him more relatable to the average day man. Right? And so that wasn't an accident. None of that stuff's an accident. So when you start to study some of this stuff here, it's all associations. That's all it is. And so my biggest recommendation on this full branding thing here, and I can answer questions if you guys have any, is to essentially create your own version of that brand guideline that you create. That's the filtration before anybody can put a piece of content out on you. And it can start very subtle. It could just be the fonts you want to use, the colors you want to use, the type of style you want to do on the stories. And then over time, that's a living, breathing document. So over time, my team will do something. I disagree with it. So then I'll sell, hey, you guys should change this. And then I'll put it in the brand guideline. So next time we're doing quality control, that's make sure that that's removed. A lot of people talk branding like super 10,000 foot and like if I had just started this, like it's anything that's associated with you. That was my hardest thing for the longest time was that, okay, I get that, but how does that tangibly come out in the content that you produce? And in my opinion, it's the brand guideline. And then when I started talking about brand guidelines, now when I talk to my friends that have like 6 million, 7 million, 8 million subscribers or followers, they're like, oh yeah, the brand guidelines? It's like, oh yeah. It's like this secret thing that only these like huge content creators have that they don't want, I don't know, the everyday person to know. I feel like I'm doing a webinar right now, but you guys get the idea. It's like not a lot of people know about it. So if you do that, you will immediately be able to separate yourself from your competition because 99% of the people that have the personal brands online don't have one of these.